Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Greg Estevez, Technology Integration Director with Wolf Creek Public Schools, and I'm pleased to welcome Kurtis Hewson of Jigsaw Learning back to Wolf Creek Public Schools for the fourth of our multi-part webinar series on learning about the collaborative response model software. So for this and the next upcoming webinar, which will be on Thursday, October 8th at 4 p.m., Kurtis will be highlighting the development of team boards and initiating collaborative team meetings. So thanks, Kurtis, for your willingness to support our user community through these webinars and through other forms of support which are available via the CRM software site, etc. Now, Kurtis, one of the questions that we've had come into our office as our users kind of get going with setting up their team boards as they prepare for Wolf Creek's next collaborative response model release day, which is October 9th, is about some inconsistencies that users are seeing in staff data and some errors that appear to be there. But I know your team is working on this, so would you mind addressing that for us, Kurtis?
Yeah, so as I shared with a number of users that were at CTLS last Friday, over the past weeks, as we've brought Wolf Creek and any of our other previous users from the old system, the beta version that we were utilizing last year, into this year, there was difficulties with the synchronization as there had been numerous upgrades made within the software that people are utilizing today. And so we've spent the last number of weeks ensuring that we've had accurate student rosters, to which point now we believe that we have those fully synced. There's still some students that we need to archive and graduate out of the system, which is why some schools are seeing students there in their school that are no longer part of their school, that We're working to have those removed. In fact, we sent off that list just today. But now the next step is the staff rosters. So we're working to ensure that those are syncing correctly as well, so that we can have that piece corrected within schools as soon as possible. So we ask for patience as we continue to get the rosters for our staff completely set.
Fabulous. Thanks, Kurtis.
Okay, what I'd like to do then is talk about team boards and take a look at how we establish these and what we need to do. So one of the things before I move into sharing my screen here is to understand that even though we can sync for our students from the student information system to ensure that they're in the correct grade with the correct teacher and working to figure those out, team boards are always manually created within the school and manually updated. Because our system does not account for whether a school is creating grade level boards or division or classroom or alert team, whatever other configurations, every school is unique in how they talk about their students. Therefore, every school's boards will be unique. So it is important to recognize that even though our school may have a grade 5 board established within the system, our system does not instantly recognize that grade 5 students belong on it. That's still something that needs to be manually done at the school level, just like if we were not working with the software and had to prep our physical boards at the beginning of each year to get it ready for use. We also have to prep our digital boards. So with that said, I want to jump into the software, and here we go. And we're going to share what this looks like. So I will log in here in my demo space. All right, so in our user dashboard, I've entered as an administrator. Now it is the admin that can create new team boards. So either those with admin status or users in the school that we'd like to give admin status. I'll show that very quickly. For instance, within this school, if we decided that Mary teacher is going to take a lead in helping develop and set up these boards, we may wish to move Mary to an admin designation or permission level for this. Or we may determine that, no, this is going to get done at the admin level, recognizing that if we give Mary admin status, she will have access to all 4 of these buttons to be able to add, edit students, engage in leadership meetings, and all of these other pieces. So again, that is a school-based decision that happens, but to understand that for team boards, editing and updating, you will need that admin user permission level. So in our team boards, let's go in, and I've created a board that's called Grade 7 Academic. And I'm going to move to editing that. Anytime I see a pencil icon, that means that I'm editing here. So now one of the things that we'll note is this is a grade 7 board. However, it has all grade 8 students. So what has happened is last year, I've created a grade 7 board, but now as these students have moved to grade 8, they're still sitting on this board. This is where we say each year this needs to be manually completed at the school level. Now, there's a few ways I could do this. I could go select and move off from the selected to the available side, those students, and individually reintegrate my grade 7, or in this case, because most of these students from grade 8, or sorry, from grade 7 have now moved into grade 8, I'm just going to simply rename my board. It's now going to be my grade 8 academic board. And I'm going to ensure that there's 4 students that just came to us from a galaxy far away. I'm going to take them and add them onto our board. So rather than re-edit for all, I believe there's 28 students in this class, I'm only going to make the adjustment of the name and bring over the 4 new students that have just joined us. Much, much easier to do that. Then once again, I'm going to determine that I'd like for these students to have name only, and I'd like this visualization. Last week, we talked about the difference in visualizations and why you may want to even try playing with some different visualizations to determine what's the best for your school. So within this, in my grade 8 now, it's been renamed grade 8 academic. I go in and my grade 8 students are sitting there waiting for me. Now, one of the things is that this is obviously, I have every student able to see quick and easy. I would say that for this situation, I'm going to bring out my user dashboard once again and go back to my team boards. I'm actually going to edit it because I'd like their picture on. I'm not in a place where I have multiple students that picture is going to be onerous. It'll still be all right for me here. Now, one of the features that I can utilize on a PC is to be able to use a Control+ to increase my zoom, to make it larger and easier to see, or Control- will make it smaller. We have seen schools when they get into their meetings that need to use this feature, just these basic keyboard shortcuts with PCs to help us. On a Mac, I believe it's the Command+ or minus that'll allow us to do that. We also have the ability right in the system to be able to shrink certain areas so that we're only looking at a particular board. However, I'm going to increase us back out here and back up. Okay. Now, one of the features or one of the pieces that we're receiving many emails and requests from is when, and I won't be able to show an example, but I'll explain it through here for us, is when we've listed all of our students that are going to be on. So we have all of our grade 8 students. However, when we save and show, not all of our students are sitting there. We may have selected 50, and then we open it up and see, oh goodness, there's only 4 sitting there. What has happened with this is when the systems were brought over, it did not automatically recognize our intervention levels. So let me show you what I mean by that. So we're going to search out, let's go to Darth Vader here. You'll notice that when I search for students with my student profiles, even a part of the name is going to pull up any student that fits that. So actually, let's go into Princess Leia. We can see with Princess Leia that she is meeting expectation in Tier 1. However, for a number of students coming across, it may be that it's showing their intervention tier as just the header for that category. When that happens, this student will not appear on our board. Now, because I'm in here, if I try and save, it will not let me save without selecting that student level. However, we have noted that for students within the system, as we've built different intervention focuses, it's entirely possible that it is not catching an intervention tier. This has been put as a high priority for our development team to fix so that no student can exist in the system without an intervention tier assigned. And even within our school, I'm going to go back to my school options, home, and configure school. As long as the school, let's go into intervention tiers and edit, has assigned the default, every student should be going to that default. So we've put this on a high priority for our development team, and we're currently having them build a patch in the system so that this can be done automatically, and our intention is that this can be corrected within either tomorrow or early next week. However, if schools are feeling anxious or want to be moving, they can definitely go about their profiles and making those adjustments. Oh, we'll go to Darth. Making those adjustments on their own to ensure that there are intervention tiers established. However, as long as, let's go back to our team boards, as long as the students are showing up as those selected ones on there, we're feeling assured that once that patch is developed, that we'll be able to put them to at least the defaults to get them onto those boards. So with that, again, as mentioned, we have worked with schools that are creating the boards and then seeing not all of their students are there. That's the reason for that. And we've put it as a top priority to build in a patch that does not allow a student within the system currently or in the future without an intervention tier assigned, so that they will show up on boards regardless of which ones they're selected for.
That's great, Curtis. Now, I know you've gone over it in the past, but would you mind showing once again, because I know it's a question that I was just dealing with a school with today, about how to take, let's say, an entire class of grade 8s and assign, like, so if I wanted to reset their or set their intervention tier to level 1, let's say, how could I select an entire grade of students and give them a common intervention tier?
Right. So what I'll show you here, this is another feature that we have to ensure is working correctly within the system, but I'll come back and show this. Under student profiles, there is an edit current students where we can edit individuals or groups of students. Okay, also as an admin, if I go to add or edit students, that same feature is available in there. So there's two different pathways to reach that. So if I edit current students, I can go in, and I have no grade 7s, but I do have grade 8s, and select multiple students. So now, in doing this, the keyboard shortcut that can help us is to utilize a shift and click. Holding that shift down, I can select multiple students at a time. We have put into our system the request that this available students area can be expanded further so that we can see more students within this. So right now I've selected all of my grade 8 students. I can change their grade level. I can change their teacher. Our caution for schools that are syncing is that this should be done within PowerSchool, and then the sync will take care of it. Doing it manually will create some glitches that we'll need to attend to. Then within here, we can set for a group what their expectation or their entry level is, and within Wolf Creek, this terminology is consistent with STAR 360 screening. levels, and then we can set their intervention tiers. We had worked with the school even today where once we had made that save, it wasn't being captured, but this will be fixed in the very, very short term. So with that, we can also then assign them to a particular board that we have established as well. So it becomes a very easy way for us to make multiple revisions for students in one fell swoop. So what I want to do here is we're going to delete a team board, and I'm going to show you how we'll go about building this all over again. So I'll get rid of my grade 8 behavior board, and let's build a new board. So I'm going to call this grade 8 behavior. Oh, and it's there for me. Now I have to select which focus I'd like that to be in. These are set at the school level, and we can add different intervention focuses in as well if we like, but for now I'm going to look at behavior, and I'm going to select my grade 8 students, bringing them across. One of the features that I spoke of at CTLS is the development of a select all button. That's going to make that even quicker for us. But I'm going to put on here that we're going to be able to show name and picture, and we'd like this to be a vertical, and save. We go into our team boards, and there it is waiting for us as we've set up with name and picture on a vertical visualization. So I'm going to pause there, and Greg, if there's any questions that's either coming from our live audience or the question responses, or if there's anything else that from your experience in talking with schools that we can address as well.
Actually, no, Curtis, nothing's coming in from the quote-unquote live studio audience, and I think the number one thing that schools have been asking about is really about the students not showing up on their boards and address that. The other piece there that people are really looking for, and I know you provided this feedback, but just so that we can reiterate it for who happens to be watching, is around the way that students are showing up inside of grade. The fact that they're coming in non-alphabetical order. And that's due to the fact that one of the pieces of information I believe that the system is reading is an ID number assigned by PowerSchool, and that's sort of how the students are coming in. So that's just something that we know is less than ideal for our schools, and especially for classes and cohorts like you talked about with many kids. And we know that that is something that we're in conversations about and that you're aware of. So that's absolutely really the number one and number two pieces of feedback and question that I get from schools. And
I would say that for us right now, that is, we could categorize as a temporary headache. We've put it into our task list to be able to make that revision within the program and making those adjustments right in the software.
You bet. Fabulous.
Okay, so then what I do want to take a look at, and I'm going to go back to my screen, is how do we go about a collaborative team meeting? So now that we've had the boards established, establishing the boards is essential prior to that collaborative team meeting, as the team meeting involves the boards. So now that I've built the boards that I'd like to have for my meetings, I'm going to initiate a collaborative team meeting. Now, a collaborative team meeting is different than any other meeting within the system for the fact that it's based on a team board. Visually, we work off the team board, and a collaborative team meeting not only captures the actions and descriptions for multiple students, but then it also places those descriptions and actions that we establish into each individual profile. It's one of the distinctive features of the system. So let's go and start a collaborative team meeting. We'll start here, a new collaborative team meeting. It'll ask which board would we like to talk about. We're going to focus in on grade 8 behavior. And we'll continue. Consistent with a collaborative response model philosophy, it's going to ask some particulars to get us started. So we'll select today's date. We'll select who's part of our group to talk about. And we're going to note that we have these 4 individuals, but joining us, we're going to add an other. Joining us is Greg. We'll say Greg Estevez is joining us. Now, Greg is not normally part of our school, but has come in to join. We'll add that as other. One of the things to keep in mind that any that we add in other will not receive email updates. They're just going to be noted within the record. So we start off this collaborative team meeting with some celebrations. So very quickly, we're going to note that Mel's anger seems to be lessening. And we're also noting that Luke is making new friends. Again, obviously, this is very simplistic for the demonstration. Right now, in other notes, this would be notes that do not apply to specific students, but an overall cohort in general. So for instance, we need to, one of the things that we said that we needed to do was get attendance data for grade 8 students. Okay, this becomes a way to just set reminders. Now within here, if we didn't have any other notes, we could even just put NA. It does ask for us to have something within that field. We can set a next meeting if we like. However, we're not going to in this case, and we're going to save. And I'd like for you to watch what happens once we save. Now, it will note that we have a team meeting active up in the top. And you'll notice that every student now has a little checkbox for us. Now, if we wanted to return back to add some additional notes or to add some further celebrations, we can. This is also where we go to end the meeting. Right now, we're just going to add get grade 8 attendance data that during the meeting someone had mentioned that would be really nice for us to have. So we're putting that in. We'll just save once again. Now, for us to be able to add notes about a student, we're going to check off. So let's go and talk first about, let's move John. We're going to be moving John to tier 2, and let's talk about him. So we'll click on and add notes. You'll notice that until I click that, the add notes is not available. So I'll add some notes with John. I have the ability that if there were additional students that we're talking about with similar concerns and similar actions being put in place, we can put that in. And what will happen after is for each student, it will go to their individual profile. However, for now, we're just going to talk about John Candy, and that we're getting a little bit concerned is that he seems quite distracted in class. So now, what is it that we're going to do? We always want to get to that, so what will we do? Question. Within our school, and this will be a topic for next week, we can select one of the interventions that we've placed within our school, within our interventions menu. However, for us, we're just going to assign an other action at this point. Developing the interventions at a school level is a nice feature within the program. However, it's not something that is entirely necessary when we first start out utilizing the system. So we're going to put another action, and you'll notice here it'll ask us to type that. And we're going to set up meeting with parents. Who's going to take care of that? Well, the principal is going to take care of that, and he'll make sure that he takes care of that tomorrow. We're also going to add one more action here for John, and we're going to get him involved in some leadership activities. And we'll ensure that Mary is taking care of that. And she's going to look at that for next week. She'll try and get that accomplished by next Tuesday. So I'll save. And it's going to bring me back. John is checked off. We're going to talk about another student. So let's talk about, let's go to David Hasselhoff. And within David's, we're going to add here some anecdotal evidence. And I want you to see what's going to happen here. We're going to add under strengths and interests that he loves the water, and learning preferences, anything or speaking in German is preferable. Now, I need to ensure that we save this information. We'll save. Now what we're going to do is it kicked us out right now. This is a glitch that we're going to have fixed out so it doesn't do that. But our work around it for right now is to be able to just back in and come back into our meeting. You can see that it's been saved here, that anecdotal evidence, and we're going to add some points here. And we're going to add in relation to his behavior is getting into fights regularly. Again, this is simplistic for the points of demonstration. We're going to have him involve, or another action that we'll put in is increased recess supervision. And Joby has said that he'll go out to help David over the next little while. He'll start that beginning tomorrow. We'll save. And we can see these have been checked off. Now I can continue working through the meeting, talking. However, for this demonstration, we're going to now go up. We've finished our meeting. We'll go up to the team meeting active and click end meeting. Are you sure? Yes. Do you wish to print? Yes, we do. When we print, it's going to show us a PDF that we can physically print, then utilizing our PDF print features. But you'll note here that it's set out our celebrations, our general notes, as well as then the individual students, what actions we said we'd put in place, who was responsible. You'll notice the status here says it's not yet completed and what the completion date is. We also have John's actions that we put in place. I'm going to X out of this and return back to our system. And it'll ask if we want to tweet. We don't have a tweet or a Twitter account established, so we're going to say no thanks here. And we'll note that in our collaborative team meetings in 2015-16, for grade 8 behavior, it's created a record for us. If our on status button here was green, that would tell us that meeting is still active and we need to end it. However, we could go back to edit and re-enter that meeting. We could also print once again, or as admin, we have the ability to delete this meeting out if we wished. However, we don't want to do that in this case. What I will note for us is once that meeting was finished, we're working on the functionality so that everyone involved will receive an email update that shares that they were involved in this meeting and what actions had been assigned to them. Because in our actions overview, we can now see for our school, as a school admin, I can see all the school actions, and I see there's a number that some were set up here today for completion. I have some from before, but I can also see my own individual user actions, and there's 2 that myself as the demo principal have said that I'll take care of. So now I want you to watch what's going to happen when I actually click one of these as completed. So I've made the phone call, we've set up the meeting, and we can see here's where this action came from. We can click completed, and also that the meeting is set for Monday. We save, and now that meeting or that action is no longer outstanding. But what we will see is if we go into John, individual profiles, we can see in his meeting records for 2015-16, here's our collaborative team meeting that we had today. If I click in, it will show me just John's part of that meeting. You can notice that what we talked about in relation to David Hasselhoff is not made available, but in our records, it now has updated us to show that this action has been completed, what the date was that we had set initially, and the comment that's been added. It becomes that running record of have we accomplished what we said we would. And I want to show us then what happened in our collaborative team meeting. So let's go back to our team boards to view our collaborative team meeting record. Here it is. We'll go to our print, and it will still show us our David and John, what had been talked about in that meeting. But you'll notice here for John that the setup, the meeting with parents, has now been completed, and the meeting is set for Monday. It becomes that way, that running record of, are we accomplishing what we said we were planning to do? And as we talk through our meetings, it is building. We'll go back here to John. It is building a more robust understanding of our students over time, with multiple meeting records, interventions that are being put in place, if there are outstanding actions to be taken care of. One of the elements we have not shared yet that we can look at in a future webinar is being able to share data that has been collected, achievement or other demographic data in relation for students, but then also to be able to continue to build anecdotal notes related to our students here as well. So if we go back to see the information that we had built for David, you can see over time, we're going to be able to gather a lot of information about students that can be accessed by teachers. Also, when we do get into our meetings, there is the ability on this left-hand side to show, in fact, let's start just an individual meeting. This is not a collaborative team meeting, but an individual one for just David. And let's say that this was a learning support team meeting. You can see the same notes area appears here, but on the side, we have the ability to view different components for us to see what levels they're at, what meeting records currently exist, what resources have been added, if any, which interventions are currently in place, as well as what data has been collected for a student. So a way during the course of our conversation where we can easily be able to access information about kids. So once again, I'm going to pause and ask if there's questions that have arisen, questions here from Greg, and really continue our focus on the team boards and collaborative team meetings, preparing schools for that level of engagement with the software.
So our studio audience is pretty quiet this evening, but if you were to provide, again, going back to always digging into the most important pieces of advice for our user community when initiating those collaborative team meetings, whether it has to do with the software or something else, if you were to pass on a couple of pieces of info to the leaders of those meetings, what would your advice be? I think you're still muted there, Kurtis.
Sorry about that.
There you go.
My advice would be for schools to ensure that the software is a tool that we can utilize, but that it should not be the focus of the meeting. The focus is still that professional conversation that happens for adults supporting students. So really ensure that that remains our focus. The other thing that I would be keeping in mind, and let's look at a team board to understand what we're saying here, is oftentimes when our when our conversation begins at tier 4, that can often be very complex, very intensive conversations that oftentimes are being had for students that already have multiple conversations and meetings, whether it's outside agencies, IPPs, or other intervention team meetings established. Placing our time to begin with here may not be as fruitful as if we could focus at students that are within that tier 1, 2, 3. So one of the things that's effective in the utilization of the software, and I'll back up and start a new team meeting so that we can see what it is that we mean, is to be able to utilize, I'll just click some information here so that we can just save. Right now we don't have celebrations or other notes. Is to be able to utilize the check boxes, to be able to say within our meeting, right now, Drew Barrymore, Christy Brinkley, Chevy Chase, Robert Downey, Corey Haim, Michael J. Fox, they're all doing great. And so very quickly we can just touch base to say these students are progressing as we expect, they're doing well, and then utilize this to engage in some collaborative conversations for students that often may not be the focus outside of a classroom. So to really ensure that we're placing focus on students that may not get that focus in other conversations. I would suggest that would be some of the items to think about when engaging in these first meetings. The other thing that I would note is it's going to be important for administrators or those who are deemed with school admin user permissions to ensure that boards are set up and that there's some familiarity with utilizing the system prior to those meetings. I think it would be not very strategic within a school to begin your meetings by coming into the system for the very first time. If that's the case, I would really encourage that the software not be a part of that meeting, and that the school then is just focused on conversations and whatever means they've utilized prior to the introduction of the software. So again, just being strategic as a leadership team in how the system is prepared and then utilized within those meetings.
Fantastic. That's great advice. And a lot of the questions, of course, that are flowing into my office and that also that you've been dealing with on our behalf are coming out of, I guess, that desire by our leaders to be in the software ahead of time and be prepped for
Absolutely.
October 9th and their next kick at collaborative response model conversations. So
absolutely. Now, Greg, the other thing that I will note is really encouraging users to not only be addressing you when there's difficulties or glitches that are experienced. Our communication back and forth is timely and addressing those pieces. So to utilize that, but then also within the system, it's also a feature that we can utilize when we send feedback to be able to note what it is that we're experiencing here. These are directed immediately. I'm sorry, I should share my screen here. And I'll back up so that you can see where I access this. Within my user dashboard, the button that states send feedback, it's going to open to a form. Once this form is completed, it arrives to us instantly by email, and we address those in a timely manner with emails back, including yourself in those responses, but then also utilizing that to connect either with our development team or to express that what's being experienced is already on the docket for our development team to attend to.
Absolutely. And I must commend you for your timeliness and your responsiveness, Kurtis. It's been a pleasure kind of working back, and I appreciate the support that you have provided already to many of our schools when they've had questions and the feedback that you've taken. Just while we're on that note, what would you mind showing sort of the audience the support materials that you already have sort of on your site, and then talk maybe a little bit about your vision for the future for the support areas of your website and the software and things like that? Absolutely.
So I'll back off again into this support area. Right now, when I click, on the user dashboard within support, it'll ask if I'd like to contact district support. Right now that is being hooked up. I'd suggest that if it's a district concern in regards to I can't find these two students, or there's this problem with our roster, those are really district supports. Those emails can come right into Greg while we ensure that this is being connected. However, if we proceed to CRMS support, we come here to our support network. Now within our support network, we have categories of responses. We have video supports that have been established. We have our topics there. We do have additional links set up here as well. But then within our knowledge base, we have the ability to search, for instance, something such as, let's go dashboard. And we can see that there's topics related to that search word. We also then have support documents that have been developed that may be valuable. One that we've developed as a response from some of our users is to be able to create a dashboard overview that points to what do the different buttons mean and do that may be valuable. We're continuing to grow and build this over time. And finally, our webinar support shows our upcoming webinars, but then also the existing webinar recordings that people can go back and watch on their own time to help. We also here, you'll see there's an email update subscription where we can sign up. Each week we send out a Monday update that just shares where the software is at, which items are being addressed, new features onto the support network. You will note that when we're home in the support network, that it states this is a temporary. Right now, we have a vision that our support network is going to be even more robust so that we can have a forum element as well, where users can post a question, asking how to do something, and we can provide a response so that we can, in time, develop almost a frequently asked questions area, able to have running dialogues within this, all in an attempt to continue to support users utilizing the software over time.
That's great, Kurtis. I think we can probably call it a day there, and just remind everybody that our next scheduled webinar will be next Thursday on October the 8th at 4 p.m. and that one of the main topics that you'll be addressing at that time will be the establishing of interventions. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Fabulous. So thanks again, Kurtis, for taking some time out of your day to connect with us in this manner and to provide us with this support. And we really appreciate your ongoing willingness to work with us and our users in this way. And we're excited about hearing how our users are interacting with the software to support these collaborative conversations, you know, as they move forward into their next opportunity to do so, which is on the 9th of October. So thanks again, and we look forward to seeing you and everybody else out there on October the 8th at 4 p.m.
Great. Thank you very much, Greg.